Six Flags St. Louis is the park I've called home for most of my life, and it's located just west of the actual city of St. Louis in Eureka, Missouri. It now is home to 10 roller coasters with the somewhat recent addition of Rookie Racer in 2023, and I've gotten tons of rides on most of the roller coasters here, so I have a pretty good feel for my current list. This list has changed pretty drastically over the years, but this is where the rides currently stack up at the end of 2025. So let's get right into this ranking. At number 10 is the park's Vekoma Boomerang, also called Boomerang. This is the only coaster on this list that I've only ridden one time. This is not only because the ride is not very good, but I also have ridden a bunch of clones of this ride across the country, so it's not a big priority to get another ride on this one. It's not completely awful, certainly better than Vekoma SLCs like the now defunct T3, but it's still pretty janky and has some really sharp breaks in the station. Going backwards through those inversions isn't the most fun thing either. At number 9 is the park's Vekoma Junior roller coaster, Rookie Racer. As previously mentioned, this is the newest ride in the park and really filled a gap that the park was missing in the lineup. I've ridden this a few times since it opened because it's actually really smooth, and I love the Formula One theme with it. You also get 2 laps around the track on this one, which is always nice. This is a great, albeit small, addition to the park and really rounds out the solid lineup the park has to offer. At number 8 is the park's oldest roller coaster, River King Mine Train. This era mine train is an absolute classic and one of my most ridden coasters. This was also my first ever roller coaster as a kid, so it holds some sentimental value. It's still a pretty solid ride regardless, and one of my favorite mine trains due to the tunnel drop at the end of the ride. It's still janky as any other 70s mine train, so try and brace yourself for some of those turns, and the lift hills especially. At number 7 is an often despised roller coaster in the community, Ninja, the park's Vekoma Looper. I still don't love this ride, especially due to the Sidewinder inversion that is especially janky, but this ride has some really solid moments too. The airtime in the back row on the first drop is actually great, and the rest of the ride isn't super janky compared to that Sidewinder. I do think it's a little underrated in that respect based on people calling it the worst roller coaster in the world, which it definitely isn't. It's a flawed but still solid attraction overall. At number 6 is the park's Gerstlauer spinning coaster, Pandemonium. This is another commonly cloned ride that I've done a few times, but it really is a good family coaster layout. If you get an off-balance car especially, that is with both people on one side of the car, the spinning you get is completely insane, and there's really some out-of-control airtime in the second half too. Easily the best family coaster in the park, and it makes sense why there are so many of these across the country. At number 5 is a bit of a fall from grace for this wooden giant, but it's the Boss. This ride has gone all over the place in my rankings throughout the years, even peaking at my favorite coaster in this park, mainly due to its insane night rides. More recently, however, even with the added Titan track for the 2025 season, it has really deteriorated and dropped like a rock in my overall rankings. It's not even in my top 50 anymore, when it used to be solidly in my top 20, mainly due to how insanely rough it's gotten recently. It gives me a headache every time I ride now, and you can hear my more in-depth thoughts on my most recent review of the attraction. But long story short, it still has some great speed and solid airtime, but it's almost impossible to ride more than once now, which is a shame. Hopefully more retracking is in the cards for the Boss in 2026, because it could definitely use it. At number 4 is the park's B&M inverted coaster, Batman. Once again, another very commonly cloned layout across the Six Flags chain, but there is a very good reason for that. This layout is ridiculously intense and just powers through its layout, and is still glass smooth after over 30 years of operation. This particular clone is actually mirrored from the normal layout, with the ride sweeping to the right instead of the left at the start. If you love intensity and positive G's, this is the ride for you, and while I like more drawn-out, airtime-focused rides, I still respect this ride's undeniable greatness. At number 3 is another positive G machine, the park's premier ride shuttle launch coaster, Mr. Freeze. This ride also doesn't give you a moment to breathe as soon as you launch backwards out of the station until you come back powering into the brakes. The reverse spike is easily my favorite moment on any coaster in the park due to its sustained, almost hang time feeling airtime, with that added booster launch on the spike. The inverted top hat going backwards or forwards is also insane and intense, and another standout moment for the ride. Once again, if you love intensity, this should be your favorite ride in the park, but there are a couple more rides I prefer coming up. At number 2 is the park's classic PTC wooden coaster, Screamin' Eagle. This ride turns 50 years old next year, and it's still running as good as ever in my opinion. Much like the Boss, this ride also has some amazing night rides due to its secluded wooded location in the back of the park, but it's also much smoother than the Boss currently. This thing is also a floater airtime machine, giving great airtime on almost every hill, and even some ejector towards the end of the ride. My full thoughts are in a separate review, but this is a must-do when visiting Six Flags St. Louis, and probably needs a few rides to really appreciate it. Just make sure you get to the second to back row, though. And at number 1 is the park's GCI wooden coaster, American Thunder. There's a reason this ride is my most ridden roller coaster. I love the mix of great laterals, floater, and ejector airtime this ride provides, all while being very smooth for a Woody too. It's in a great location at the front of the park, so I love to start and end my day with a ride on this great coaster. It's not the biggest or fastest coaster in the world, but it's super re-rideable, and I could lap this thing all day long if I could. There is also a separate review of this ride on the channel, but I just know that this is a pure fun roller coaster that anyone can enjoy. Do you agree with American Thunder being the best at Six Flags St. Louis? Or do you think it's overhyped? Post your thoughts in the comments section below. Be sure to subscribe for more content and check out my reviews of most of the coasters on this list.